Distractions are easy to come by. I know this is going to come as a complete shock to most of you. This past Sunday, when I saw that I had the devotional, I decided, I'll go to work in the morning and start working on it because I have a desk job and sometimes I work on, things like this. But as soon as I sat down, I immediately got called to the log home warehouse to resolve an issue that they were having with space and inventory and such. That took about 15-20 minutes to do. Then I get back to my desk, I sat down, immediately get called to the other warehouse to resolve some staffing issue, which was fine. Took another 15-20 minutes. Sat back down at my desk, get a phone call from a customer. Why they were calling at 6:30 in the morning is beyond me, but they absolutely were. Then I resolved that. And then my boss calls me into the office and all that, and we discuss all sorts of different things and whatnot. But the point is, we are very easy to get distracted. Another example of this is, we're roughly 3 months into the year. Show of hands, who is still keeping their New Year's resolution? Don't get me wrong. Mine was to lose some weight, and you'll be happy to know I'm almost 10 pounds heavier than I was when I started. It's easy to do. It's easy to lose focus on our goals. We get distracted from all sorts of things. Like, what's happening at work? What are we going to do for dinner? Did I leave the oven on? I need to change my oil in my car. I have a deadline for a project. I need to cut my hair. Remember again that you still have not turned off your oven. Where's my wallet? Where are my car keys? Don't forget to do your taxes. I need to run to the bank. What kind of bird is that? Finally, turn off your oven. We are distracted by all sorts of things. We're going to look at a couple of scriptures. We're going to start with Matthew chapter 14. We're going to start with verse 22, and we're going to read to the end of the chapter. Now, to give context to this verse, Jesus just finished feeding the 5,000. And the disciples are about to depart on boat, but Jesus decides to stay behind. Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 to the end of the chapter. And it reads, "Immediately he made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, 'It is a ghost.' And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, 'Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid.'" So here we have the apostles way off in a boat, off from the shore, while Jesus stays behind. It's really early in the morning, and from what I've been reading, is somewhere between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. And the boat has been beaten by the waves on the sea. It's very choppy water. And with these conditions, you can see why the apostles thought Jesus was a ghost. I can say they probably had never seen anybody walk on water before. It just wasn't natural to them. Let's continue reading. And Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come onto the water." And he said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. Now we have another classic example of Peter being Peter and being the first to speak. And he asked Jesus, "If it is you, command me to come on the water to you." And Jesus obliges him. And Peter steps out of the boat and walks on the water towards Jesus. But here is where Peter makes a critical mistake. Let's continue reading. "But when he saw the wind, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, 'Lord, save me.'" You see, Peter got distracted. He stepped out of the boat, he saw the wind and the rough seas, and probably realized that he was walking on water, and he got distracted by his doubt. Now, he took his eyes off the Lord. But to Peter's credit, he at least acknowledged who could save him. And he cried out, "Lord, save me." Let's continue reading. Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. And those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." You see, it's easy to get distracted by everything that's going on around us. Even the apostles weren't immune to this. Now I'm going to close out with a final verse here found in Hebrews chapter 12. These verses come after what is often referred to as the Faith Hall of Fame, which discusses many characters in the Old Testament and their outstanding faith in God. And it reads, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely. And let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God." We have to remember that no matter how many distractions happen, we need to look to Jesus, and we need to keep our eye on the goal. Now, this is a time that we usually set aside at the end of our little devotional service here for anybody who wants to take on Christ in baptism. Or if you're somebody who just needs to come forward, ask prayers of the church. If you feel so convicted to do so, please come as we stand and sing.